In this video, I'm revealing a simple and yet profitable strategy that has turned me from a break-even trader to a profitable trader. I use this strategy on the stock market, indices, FX, and commodities. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. For this strategy, we are using pivot points that uses high, low, and the close price of the previous period divided by 3, and you get the central pivot. And in turn, this can be used for finding support and resistance into the future. And in turn, this can be used to find your entries, take profit, and even your stop loss. This strategy is mostly suitable for day traders, swing traders, and as always, this video is only for educational purposes. This is how traditional pivot points looks like, with a central pivot, and above the central pivot, it is resistance 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, and below the central pivot is support 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. The pivot points we are using has all these features, but it also has middle points. The midpoints are the middle between two pivot levels. The midpoints are essential use of this indicator, because we're using middle points for our entries and for our targets. To use this indicator, we firstly need to identify where we think the market is going to go. This is called your bias. How do you create your bias? This can be fundamental analysis, seasonal analysis, sentimental analysis, or just choose a direction. The second thing you need to identify is psychological levels, like round numbers like 1800 or 140, for example. You then need to identify the trend in the market, support and resistance, and potential trend reversal if you don't have the trend with you. We are going to focus on 3 major market conditions, but I'm going to say all 5 of them just for you to know. We're going to look at bullish, bearish, range, but also out of position and overextended are also a part of this strategy. So let's get into the rules of the different scenarios. So let's start out with a bullish bias. In this bias, we first of all need to have done analysis, that is not technical analysis, that we are going to be a buyer of this asset. Before we can use this indicator, we need to identify that we have a trend, as this is a trending tool. So we need to look for higher high and higher low, higher high and higher low. When you're looking for the second low, you should look for support. That's where you normally find the pivot level M2. M2 is your best friend and your best buy price for this time period. Now, when you buy at M2, you need to look for target M4. In some cases, market will be even more aggressive and never come to M2. It will come down to the central pivot. If price comes from above and reacts to the central pivot, you should target R2. In most of these cases, you should have your stop loss below S1. Let's go through this bullish setup. First of all, we're going to go through it as swing traders, then as day traders. For both of them, needs to identify that sellers has taken profit. That we can do by identifying the pivot level M1. It has been hit. The next one is we need to find at what level. I want it to be at a psychological level like 1700. Fantastic. For technical analysis, I want to look for double bottoms. This is a triple bottom. Okay. Now I then need to have a higher high. I identify this here. I need to have a higher low. This is here. I need to have a higher high. And then I need to look for support. Where is your support, you might ask? Of the previous high. And I would put my entry around 1706, give or take. As you can see, entry has been hit. I will then target 118.16, the weekly pivot level M4 for both my day trades and my swing trades. So let's go over to day trading pivots. Now we have identified sellers has taken profit, we have identified the psychological level, we have identified higher highs and higher lows, and now we're coming up to Asia Open. That is where I would look to put my limit orders in at around central pivot, at around M2, and I would put my stop loss below 1708 or below previous low, and I will put it around 1738. And I will continue to do so every single day until the weekly target has been hit. As you can see, there is my entry. Now we are at Asia Open. I would then do the same thing again. I would put my entries again at central pivot, M2, and stop loss below S1 at 17.33 or below the previous low at around 17.22. There is my entries. We're now back again at Asia Open. I will then again put my entries at this central pivot and M2 level. There I got both of my entries at central pivot and M2. We have here a interesting issue. We have a central pivot which is around the same central pivot. We are no longer having a higher high. We almost have a lower low. So in my case, I will then just wait for a new higher high before I enter again. Almost my stop losses was hit here. We have come up here to a new day. I will then put my entries here at around central pivot and around M2 and stop losses below here. Never got the entry. We are almost at target at 118.16 and there is hit. Boom! Fantastic. So let's wrap this up, and the total is 470 pips. There could definitely be some stop losses being hit either in this level or on this level. So this result might not be typical, but that's what I would do realistically speaking. From now on, avoid trading ranging markets, bearish markets, or when you have added a position to a buy and you can see that market is clearly going lower and makes a lower low, then you have to start all over again and wait for a new setup. Let's head over to the bearish bias. In this bias, we've already decided through analysis that it's not a technical analysis that we are going to be a seller of this asset. Before we can use this indicator, we need to identify that we have a trend, as this is a trending tool. And in a bearish trend, we need to look for lower lows and lower highs and lower lows and lower highs. And when we look for our entries, we need to look for resistance. And at resistance, you should find the pivot level M3. When the price reacts off M3, you should be targeting M1. In a more aggressive market, you can actually see that price comes up to the central pivot. And if it reacts off the central pivot, you should target S2. And the stop loss strategy for sellers is that you should have your stop loss above R1. Let's look at this bearish setup. First of all, we're going to look at it as swing traders, then we're going to day trade it to weekly target. First of all, you need to identify that buyers has taken profit or at least hit their profit level. And in this situation, market hit both M4 and R2. And then we need to identify which level did buyers take profit at, a psychological level or a round number. And here we can see we have reversed at 0.73. The next thing we then need to identify is a reversal pattern like a double top. Then you need a series of lower lows and lower highs. Now at the close price of this week, we see that central pivot is currently at support. So we cannot use that as resistance. So then we can only use M3 as our entry for this week. As you can see, the price has come up to our M3. We will then engage and enter a sell order with a stop loss at 73.20, and we will now start day trading ourselves down to the weekly target at around 71.20. I will set my take profit 10 pips above 71.21 just to make sure that I actually get triggered. As we're coming into the daily pivots, we need to look for lower lows and lower highs. As we're now coming into the Asia session, I will enter sells at central pivot and M3. As we have been triggered on both daily and M3 for today, I will put another sell for tomorrow at central pivot and M3. We have finally hit our target level M1 for the week. Boom! Fantastic. In this week, we got whopping 525 pips. I just wish we started with this strategy earlier. And an added bonus, none of the stop losses was ever hit. Let's head over to the third market condition, range. Range is when you have consolidation or you don't have any trend. That is generally happening after a very strong trend or in the month of July and December. We are defining a range by the pivot level R1 and S1. In a bullish range, you should be looking to buy S1 and targeting R1. You should then have your stop loss at pivot level M1. If you are generally a seller of this asset and you end up in a range, you should be selling R1 and targeting S1. You should have your stop loss at M4. So let's head over to the charts. Using technical analysis, we need to identify there's no lower lows, no higher highs. In this situation here, we have the resistance and no higher highs. Here we have support and no lower lows. And we will be looking to buy into this area here. So I would just go ahead and mark that out as a good entry. And for tomorrow, we will then put our stop loss below previous low or below M1, which would be down here. And tomorrow, we will also then targeting R1. And as you can see, that was our entry. And we target R1. As you can see, we have hit our target R1. And this is a successful bullish range trade with no loss. In a bearish range, we need to look for no higher highs and no lower lows. As we are here at R1, we are at resistance. We're expecting this one now to fall down, and there is nothing else. I'm just adding a sell limit here, and let's see how that goes on tomorrow. And we also need to remember that our target is S1. Getting closer. Oh, there it is. We have hit our target level. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Another successful bearish range trade. So let's head over to how I actually trade. This is Euro-Yen November 2020 around the US election in United States of America. This is monthly pivot points. As you can see here, this is where I should have bought, but there was too much risk around the election, so I did not dare yet. I started to buy around this area, took profit up here, but that's not what I want to show you today. As you can see, target hits very early in the month, before 15th. That sets up a potential counter trend and a potential bigger move back down again. Now we need to look for reversal at around central pivot or M3. So we did get a reversal at central pivot, but I need a reversal and all those rules that I have. And I entered my trade at around 123.30. I am now going to target M4 for December. I want to hold this trade for quite a long time so that I get maximum profits. And the market agreed with me. We went all the way up to 126.465. That is over 300 pips. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Let's head over to EURUSD April 2021 and 1st of April. Here I wanted to buy EURUSD for April, and we have a bearish trend coming in. We have taken profit on a month. We're coming down to M2. We have here a double bottom, higher high, higher low situation, and I actually bent my rules. I actually bought it way too early, but as you can see here, we have a beautiful uptrend, bought in a monthly, bought in the buy zone, buy after reversal, and we just have to take it up to the monthly pivot of M4. And sure, in the end we got 121.26. Absolutely beautiful trade. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Let's head over to pound yen. First of all, I want to say that, well, this tool is actually trend trading, right? So we can use this selling in sell zones in bearish trends. So in this case, we have price coming up to the sell zone. We have a bearish trend at this given point. We have a double top, lower low, lower high situation, sell at resistance. And I was very scared that this would take out my stop loss because it was very close. I also had an entry down here, but hey, we're not talking about that one right now. When we then have the patience and discipline to wait and trust our guts into what we're going to do, and we go all the way down to 129.66. Market gaps open that Sunday, and I closes that in a lot of volatility, a lot of spread at market open, but still I got out. And in the end, market skyrocketed up after us taking profit that week, so pretty happy about it. If you also want access to this indicator on MT4 or TradingView, please click this video. And if you want to see how I trade with this every day, please make sure to jump on the next live session.